Welcome to Conversations with Women Who Lead, honest conversations about business, leadership, and what really shapes how women lead. I'm Anne-Marie McHenry, business coach, consultant, creator, and a therapist for the past 2 decades. On this podcast, I sit down with women to talk about their businesses and their unique areas of expertise, as well as how their upbringing, background, and the social conditioning they've experienced have shaped the way they lead. We explore what they've had to learn and unlearn along the way. I'll also be sharing my own journey of founding and selling a business and the very real trials, lessons, and reinvention involved in building my next chapter, Rose and Stone. This is a space for thoughtful leadership, honest conversation, and women redefining success on their own terms. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for joining us on Conversations with Women Who Lead. Today you'll meet Alexa Gusman. She spent 8 years as a professional runner after signing with Nike at 17 years old. During her career, she competed in 2 U.S. Olympic trials, earned a bronze medal at the Pan American Games, and she still holds the American junior record in the 1,500 meters. After retiring from professional running, Alexa earned her master's degree in nutrition and nutrigenomics and became a registered dietitian. Today, she works with athletes to help them fuel for performance while also building a healthier relationship with food and body image. Welcome, Alexa. Well, thank you, Alexa, for joining me today on Conversations with Women Who Lead. I'm super excited to talk about everything that you do and where you've come from to create this business that you're in and just all of your thoughts and ideas and experiences. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for the conversation today.
Yes. I would love to know, I just recorded your intro and I would love to hear from you more about what you've been up to professionally. And I definitely need you to help me pronounce your master's in nutrition and nutrigenomics.
Yeah. So master's in nutrition, nutrigenomics.
Okay.
Graduated last year. Professionally, I sort of work in two realms. One in sort of the healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid. I'm a registered dietitian, became licensed last year, but sort of where I really hope to move forward with my career is working in the athlete sports nutrition space. So I do it through a few different avenues, some one-on-ones, team talks, group education. And so sort of just working on helping athletes figure out what they need to do for nutrition, how to become their best self, best athlete in terms of performance, but also considering like long-term health, especially like for females, making sure that you have a period and making sure that what you do now isn't going to hurt you in the long run as an athlete. And then also on the mental side, sort of that relationship with food, sort of thinking about not just short term, what's going to help me with my performance, but how I think about food. How is that going to impact my nutrition now and later on in my life?
So you're working with general population and you're also specializing in working with athletes around food, weight, I'm assuming body image.
Yeah, definitely. Both realms, hoping to move more towards the athlete realm in the long term, but right now getting a little bit of both, which is nice because I'm pretty early on in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. But you've really made a statement and a presence on social media with your coaching and guidance for athletes specifically. So I'm curious if you can speak to your interest there and why it's important to you.
Yeah. So I was a professional runner for 8 years with Nike. And throughout my time, I had a bit of an unconventional career in the sense that I signed professionally at 17. So I forgave my collegiate eligibility. This is before NIL. And so I was constantly competing against females 10 years old or 15 years older than me. And with that came a little bit of body image pressure and issues. And so throughout my entire career, I really struggled with body image and weight and confidence. And I think I'm not alone in that struggle. And so big part of my platform is I think to some degree it's normal to struggle. It's okay to have challenges, but I feel like it was to my detriment throughout my entire career. And so I'm trying to help those who are struggling sort of navigate their way through it so that they don't get to the end of their career and they say, wow, I like lost so much time, or I
Mhm.
really have these struggles that I didn't necessarily need to have. And so I'm just trying to like build awareness around body image struggles, performance struggles when it comes to nutrition and weight, and helping educate, because I think there's a lot of miscommunication or misinformation out there about performance nutrition and when it
Mhm.
comes to weight and having a normal cycle and hormones and things like that. So just trying to awareness and help people navigate those topics.
Mm. Where do you think people get their information about nutrition? And I guess I'm focusing more on the athletes now, since that really is where you came from 17, which is so wild to be signed at such a young age with a professional brand. It's obviously incredible. But where do you think people are getting this information about nutrition and how to fuel as an athlete?
Yeah, I think right now it's really prevalent on social media. But like for me, growing up, I got all my nutrition education from my coach. And so
Mhm.
I think it could be from like coaches, it could be from parents, it could be from trainers, it could be from whatever you gather on social media, it could be friends or family who just make little side comments.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is like someone might make a comment and it can stick with you for years and years and years. It can be about
Mhm.
nutrition, it can be about weight, it can be about body image. And that person might not even remember that comment that they made, but for some, it can just repeat in their head, whether it's factual or evidence based or not. And so I think there's a lot of different places that nutrition education can
Mhm.
come from, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true or right or that you should follow it.
Yeah. I love that you bring up the comment that probably every single one of us heard when we were younger from an adult, whether they
Mhm,
remember it or not, we do. I
mhm.
can think of a very specific one that has stuck with me since I was like 8 years old
Yes,
about my
yeah.
body from a ballet teacher, and it really was hurtful, and I still haven't let go of it. But I'm curious if the people that you work with, or even personally or anecdotally, is that an assessment question that you have or something that you ask people about?
I don't ask it directly, but sometimes it naturally comes up in conversation. I think it's more so I try and challenge like why we have these thoughts and why we have
Mhm.
these rules within our head around nutrition or weight or body image or how you perceive your reflection in the mirror. And so sometimes it comes up naturally, but I think just figuring out, okay, is the thought that's in my head, is it real? Is it a feeling? Is it just something I heard? And trying to challenge the idea that we don't have to believe everything that comes into our head.
Mhm. Yeah. So can you speak to what are some of the challenges that come up for athletes as it relates to, food and body?
Yeah, I probably the biggest overarching one is that being leaner means that you're going to be fitter or faster. And so a lot of athletes, especially endurance-based athletes, and I think this is sort of very prevalent in our culture and our society right now, is that thinner is better. And so a lot of athletes might try to lose weight believing that that is what will help performance, or even just generally people will think losing weight is going to make them more successful or more confident or carry themselves in a certain way. Whereas any confidence that's gained with a change in the number on the scale will fluctuate just as easily as that number changes. And so I
Mhm.
think it's important to call out that confidence isn't something that we can externally impose on ourselves if it's actually going to withstand. I think that we want confidence that's rooted not in like how we look, but who we are as people. So I think that's sort of a major one.
Mhm.
One that I really struggled with was believing that, like, if I wanted to do something well, it had to be a challenge and it had to be a struggle. And I think to some degree, you have to, like, challenge yourself and you have to work hard, and not everything's going to be easy to do something worthwhile. But there's a difference in what battles you choose and what struggles you have. I think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders who have this grind mentality, and I think that's great and it can serve you in certain purposes, but it there's things that you don't have to necessarily always be struggling with to still have that success, and being able to navigate and find the right path forward. And that can be difficult to figure out as well.
Hmm. Hmm. As a pro athlete, I mean, is it hard to like buck that narrative of like, it's okay to find some balance and rest and not be super grinding about things? Is that
Oh,
hard for athletes?
100%. And I like didn't learn it until after I retired, unfortunately. There's like a lot of things that I didn't really learn until after I retired. And I'm sure this can be related to a lot of other people, not just professional athletes
Mhm.
as well, that like you always have to be working, you always have
Uh-huh.
to be doing something. But at the
Uh-huh.
end of the day, there's always something to do. And just because you could be doing more doesn't mean that you aren't already doing enough. And there's
Uh-huh.
this balance of, just because I could be doing more, is that actually going to be helpful or productive to me?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I love that this conversation and your specialty area really is with professional athletes, but what you're talking about certainly translates to really anyone. And especially, I'm really working with business owners and leaders, but that mentality is very much the same,
Mhm,
right? Like there's always more to do. If you're not improving yourself, what are you doing? Like get up and do it. Like you're constantly checking and regulating and monitoring yourself
mhm.
for your productivity. And deciding not to do that, especially when you're used to working so hard and being in that grind and hustle culture, like training yourself out of that is really hard.
It is really hard, yes. And I think what I try and remind myself is that if I grind through this, the work that I'm doing probably isn't going to be all that great. And
Mhm.
for me to be my most present self, I need that rest. And
Mhm.
everyone needs that rest. It's not just me. Depends on how much rest you need based off of the person you are. But you're not going to be your best self, and you're not going to get your best work done when you're constantly going, going, going.
Mhm. So, how did you learn this new way, and how have you reworked your relationship with food and weight and body image? I'm assuming this is informed, your profession is informed from your history, right? Like that's usually why we end up in these careers we do because we're really passionate about one element of this career or
Yeah.
another because we've experienced it. So I'm curious a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, yeah. Personally, so I really struggle with like food and body weight and confidence throughout my entire career. And then once I retired, I was like, oh, those struggles will go away because my body is no longer my profession, more or less.
Mhm.
But those struggles didn't change at all. And I don't want to say they got worse, but they definitely didn't get better, even though exercise and movement was not my core focus of my entire day or my entire week or my entire year for that matter.
Mhm.
And so at that point, I said, okay, something obviously needs to change, because even though working out and exercising isn't my career anymore, it's still evidently a challenge in my day to day and how I think about food, and how every time I pass by a mirror, like, what are those thoughts looking like?
Mhm.
So that's when I started to challenge that a little bit, and it's definitely not easy, but I think sort of taking a step back, and can be for anybody, but like how much time and mental energy do you spend towards thinking about food or thinking about your body or thinking about your weight? Like it can take a lot of time, and it can really be spiraling. It can be all consuming, and just thinking about, how is this actually making me a better person? Is this actually make
Mhm.
or is this actually like taking away from what I could be doing?
Mhm. I love that. Is this actually making me a better person? Like fixating and perseverating on, what you look like in the mirror or what you're putting in your body, or like, is that
Mhm.
making me better or is it actually hurting me? I think that's a really important question to be asking ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, and it takes you out of the present moment a lot of the time. I know for some of the people that I work with, like, they are so consumed when they're out to dinner with their friends at a restaurant, for
Yeah.
example. because they have this struggle with food. And so they are just like consumed in that rather than the conversations around them. Or
Mhm.
maybe it's every time I pass by a mirror, am I seeing how I'm look? Am I spending a few minutes in the mirror rather than it just being like my reflection and moving on from there? And so I think there's a lot of different ways that it can manifest in individuals. It just depends on like, are you conscious of it and are you aware of those thoughts that are passing through your head? And am I going to make an intention to change them? And
Mhm.
if I am, it's going to be difficult, but I think overall it's definitely for the better.
Yeah. And how did you learn to change your thoughts? It sounds like you've fallen into the trap, which I think most women, if not most people, do, of like thinking negatively about ourselves. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you've done a lot of work around that to change that and to be more accepting of yourself and loving and compassionate. How
Yeah.
did you do that?
Yes, for sure. There was like one moment that I had a couple years ago. I was visiting my best friend. She lived really far away, and I was like in this mindset where I had to like burn a certain amount of calories every single day. And so I was like in her guest room doing a workout, and I was like, what am I doing? Like,
Mhm.
spending time with my best friend. I had like 48 hours with her, and my mind is like making me feel guilty for not doing this thing. So that was like sort of my wake up call.
Mhm.
So then throughout like my education and sort of navigating this nutrition world now, I found this book. It's called Intuitive Eating. It is a
Mhm.
wonderful, wonderful read. And that was like the first book that sort of opened my eyes to, okay, there's like other ways that I can navigate how I think about food and nutrition. And so that was sort of like the first step in helping change my thought patterns.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm curious because what you're describing, how you might be working with your clients, sounds very much like coaching, and like practicing that mindfulness and awareness of what your patterns are, what your thoughts are, how they make you feel, and then choosing a different way forward. It's
Mhm.
also like a little bit therapy-y, but definitely, I know you're in a coaching space with nutrition. Did you have a coach or a therapist, or are you self-taught? Um, I'm so curious.
Yeah, yeah. I, in terms of like nutrition,
Yes, but I guess all of it too.
yeah, yeah. I'd say like I obviously had coaches and sports psychologists
Mhm.
throughout my career, and
Mhm.
some of them were really awesome, and I absolutely loved them, and some of them I was like, I'm doing the complete opposite of everything that you told me as a counselor coach now. So from an athletic perspective, I definitely had that. And then now I don't necessarily have my own coach, but I'd say I just try and like get as much advice and really take away from the conversations that I do have with individuals like yourself, or I try
Mhm.
and network, or I just try and meet other people throughout this space
Mhm.
and figure out like what's working, what is
Mhm.
helpful. And I think if you can take away like one thing from every conversation that you do have and try and apply it, then that's great.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And I think your perspective right now and where you're at is super important because we can be like you've had the experience of being sort of coached or told what was right for you. And it sounds like you're in a place of, I'm going to take in information. I want to learn from people, but then I'm going to apply what actually works for me.
Mhm.
And that's a really important place to be. I think there's also the time and place for like, we do need more structured support and guidance. And like, can someone please tell me what to do? But always having that mindfulness around what actually feels right is huge. And I think that that takes a lot of autonomy and like personal belief in yourself that you know what's right for you, which to me also sounds like sort of a through line of how you're teaching people on social media. Like, I just can't get enough of your social media. I just have to keep saying that because it just feels so authentic and so like your message is so consistent. And it's also about what I'm gathering from it is like pay attention to what feels right in your body and
Mhm.
not necessarily what other people are telling you to do or what society tells you to do or what you think you're supposed to do. Like really listen to you.
Yeah, yeah, and I try and push that, and I think I also just try and challenge, like, the thoughts that I had 6 or 7 years ago that I thought was so right, and that I thought were my truth, more or less. And I think it just shows that seeing other perspectives can be really helpful, but you also have to be willing to hear those perspectives out as
Mhm.
well. Like, I think a couple years ago, if I try and really get through to the former Alexa because she
Oh,
was like so hard set and that this is the right way to be and this is the only way that I should do things. So just trying to be open in regards to all of that um, is what I'm trying to do. And I think it can be a hard place to get to as well. If you've had
mhm.
success following a certain mindset or thought pattern, then you think that's the only right way.
Okay. Um, I need you to tell me what nutrigenomics means. I've just been
Yes.
so curious ever since I read that.
Yeah. So it's sort of an emerging field, but it's sort of twofold. It's how your genes and your DNA influences how you metabolize or absorb or digest different nutrients.
Mhm.
Vice versa, the food that we eat, and I guess like the environment that we're in can
Mhm.
more or less like turn genes on and off. Like for example, if you are predisposed to having a certain medical condition, like you have a family history of
Mhm.
certain diagnoses, your environment can more or less turn those certain genes on and off. So it's sort of based off of the foods that you eat and how you absorb those nutrients, and then how the genes that you have can turn on and off based off of
Mhm.
what you do. So very
That's so
emerging. Yeah,
yeah.
it is really fascinating. I think there'll be a lot more of like education and research around it in the future.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it was a cool little aspect to my master's program.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Makes a lot of sense. In your assessment with new clients, are you doing blood work or any sort of assessment of what those genes that could be turned on or off are?
Not necessarily like the DNA testing, but blood work can be sort of indicative to like what
Yeah.
your body's baseline is, more or less,
Mhm.
which can be helpful for making sure that we don't have any deficiencies and
Mhm.
in terms of sort of the biomarkers for that. So no DNA testing, but maybe in the future could be
Yeah.
something actually great.
Yep. Amazing. So can you walk me through what working with you would look like from like point of contact with you to like the actual work?
Yeah, definitely. So, a few different avenues. I do a lot of one-on-one work. So, essentially, I'll have clients, athletes reach out and we do an exploratory call together. So I just get to know the client or athlete a bit better. I explain a little bit about myself and sort of what working together looks like. And then if they choose to move forward in our practice, I work for a private practice called Feeling Forward. It's myself and another former professional runner, Maddie Alm. We usually start with a 3-month coaching program and then meeting either every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on what the person's needs and sort of challenges are. And then you can always extend beyond that. But then I also do like team talks, group education, things like that. And that sort of varies like from sport to sport. Like, for example, I did a middle school and high school swim club pretation a few weeks ago. I do like talks for collegiate like track and cross country programs. And so it sort of depends on what the coaches want. If they want education around underfueling or supplements or how to like build a performance plate or
Mhm.
like what do I eat after practice? Like, there's a lot of different topics that we can cover in that realm. But those are sort of the main two avenues that I work in right now.
Amazing. What would you say is your favorite part of this work that you're doing right now?
Mm. I really love seeing like the changes, like little nutrition changes that we make in a person's day to day and how it impacts their energy or how they feel in workouts or sort of how they just like carry themselves from day to day. I really love seeing that growth and improvement and seeing how just a few things can really make a big impact on just someone's like daily life. That's sort of
Mhm.
been my favorite part at the moment.
Yeah. I know you can't like diagnose or treat or plan for everyone, but like generally speaking, are there trends that you see with athletes or non-athletes that you work with that if they just made like one simple change, it would help?
Generally, most runners or athletes that we work with are under eating or under fueling. It can be intentional or unintentional. A lot of the time it's unintentional. And so even if they added in like a banana before their runs, or they added in like not just protein after their workouts, like
Mhm.
that would make a huge impact in like their recovery and how they adapt to training and things like that. And then in the general population, I think that there's also like this idea that I have to be eating a certain way to be healthy, or I have to be lose weight to be healthy, or I have to be on a diet to be quote unquote healthy. And I think that there's a lot of flexibility in nutrition, and being healthy isn't supposed to make you miserable. um, whether that is nutrition, whether that is how you exercise, like whatever it is, it's supposed to be a part of your dominate your life. And so I think that like sort of challenging that mindset as well. And like, yeah, you can have a cookie every day. Really, it's okay. Like, you can still be healthy. You can still be an athlete. You can still do whatever you're doing. That's sort of a trend that I see among
Yeah.
clients as well.
Yeah. Can you talk about what happens when we are underfueled? And I'm talking about anyone, also athletes, but
Yeah.
what does that actually look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So our body has like this baseline energy need that like if you were in a coma, that you were just like organs functioning or trying to function, we have these baseline energy needs. And then on top of that, you add in like normal activities. So that's not just exercising, it's like walking up and down the stairs or going for a walk around your neighborhood or just doing chores around the house. You have those. And then you also need energy for like your brain to function and things like that. And so we have these like different ways that our energy needs can increase over the day, but everyone has this baseline energy need. And if we undereat, whether it's intentional or unintentional, our body will start to compensate more or less. And so if you ever have from a mental or psychological standpoint, if you ever have like brain fog or difficulty concentrating, or you just like can't seem to get your work done, that can be a sign of underfueling. Our hormones will start to downregulate. So this can present as like for females specifically, having an inconsistent period or a missing period because your body doesn't feel safe enough to have those hormones normally functioning. So it will alter how our sex hormones are functioning in our body, even change like our hunger and fullness. And so our bodies will say, like, if we're not getting enough food, it will actually change our hunger and fullness because it's trying to compensate for that. If we're under fueling, and let's say I'm trying to lose weight, which sort of is a difficult balance, but like if I'm trying to lose weight and I'm doing it by under eating to some degree, you'll actually have a harder time losing weight if you do it consistently, because our body like will hold on to those fat stores because it doesn't feel like it's in a safe space, more or less. And so under eating can manifest in different ways, mentally, physically. And so I think that at the end of the day, like, we're going to be our best selves when we're fueled. So no matter what your goals are, and finding ways to make sure that happens throughout the day is sort of where I work with people.
Mm-hmm. Just purely out of curiosity, it seems like if I think about myself and my husband and the way that we get hungry and we eat, we're very different.
Mm-hmm.
He's a type that can go all day without eating and actually feels very comfortable there. And I usually need to have, like, I wake up hungry and need like something throughout the day. I know you can't diagnose or treat, but I'm just curious, like, there are different ways that people metabolize, right? And like energy needs, is that normal?
I think there's a bit of a difference between females and males for sure,
Right.
and how we metabolize food or digest food, absorb nutrients. But to some degree, like the body is really adaptive. And so if it's used to not eating all day, it will change its hunger to adapt to that. versus myself, I think I eat like 7 or 8 times a day, and my
Mhm.
body's used to that. And so the body is really awesome and it can change,
Mhm.
but just finding like what works best for you and what
Mhm.
is going to be conducive to your goals as well. Like
Mhm.
if I am trying to work with clients all day, like I know I can't go more than like 4 hours without eating, or else I'm not going to be a very good practitioner. So, sort of like what is best for me and what's going to help me in my goals, even though I don't necessarily have any like nutrition goals, more or
Mm-hmm.
less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're just trying to be happy and healthy, not stress about things to stress about. Can you speak a little bit about the difference between approaching males and females, and maybe what, just beliefs that each gender has about bodies or what they've been taught or told? Like, what do you notice? Because it just seems like men and women approach everything. I mean, that's a sweeping statement, but we approach things differently. We're conditioned differently. We're raised differently. We're taught differently. I'm curious what you notice in the nutrition space and body image and weight and even performance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, initially, I thought there was some pretty big differences when it comes to body image and weight and performance. And the more male athletes that I work with, the more I realize that body image and confidence is still a struggle for them, even if it's a little bit more normalized in our culture for females in general, not just female
Mhm.
athletes, but
Yeah.
females in general. But males, I think especially in like in the endurance space where leaner is still sort of better is the rhetoric that's being communicated, they still
Mhm.
have those body image and those comparison struggles as well. And so I think the main difference is like if I am talking to a female athlete, I can say, "Hey, do you have like a consistent period?" if she's not on birth control, and we can
Mhm.
use that as a metric for if she is more or less eating enough amongst other metrics that we can compare against if you have a consistent monthly cycle. I can't ask men that. And so sort of navigating like, okay, what else can we use as markers to make sure that you're fueling yourself enough?
Mhm.
So that's sort of the main difference. But really like both genders struggle with it. It's not like exclusive to one or the other. And so I think like realizing that it's not just a female thing has helped me
Mhm.
practitioner because then I can best serve the
Mhm.
male athletes that I do work with.
Mhm. What do you wish that you had known when you were younger that you know today?
I wish I knew how you actually like adapt to well, 2 things. I'll do an athlete specific one. I wish I knew how you actually like adapt to training and how you actually get faster because it's not in the workouts, it's in your rest and recovery. And that's
Mhm.
what makes the adaptations to training, which I only thought it was what I do in workouts and what I do outside of workouts, more or
Mhm.
less trying to lose all my weight, didn't affect my performance. So that's one. And then I think in general, I wish I like realized that success didn't come at the cost of my happiness. Like sort of what we were talking about earlier. You're in this grind mentality and you think like I have to really push hard and I need to struggle, but it's going to make me successful even though I'm not happy right now. And if I'm happy, that means I'm not working hard enough. And it's like this weird cycle and I don't really know how I got into it.
Mhm.
But like I really struggle, and I'm sure this is among other entrepreneurs and leaders as well. I really struggle with like taking downtime and taking rest and feeling like I don't always have to be productive. And like, yeah, of course, being productive more or less makes me happy, but like it's this weird balance of like being happy will make me more successful, but doing the things that make me happy that I don't necessarily think are productive is going to contribute to my success. It's like this weird cycle that I'm still trying to navigate. And I know it sounds so weird, like to say, oh, like talk about happiness in that way. But it's just like something that I wish I at least sort of had some awareness around when I was younger.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very profound statement. You kind of like made me sit back in my chair a little bit. Like, success doesn't have to come at the cost of your happiness.
Yeah.
Success doesn't have to come at the cost of your happiness. That's such an important knowing that I don't think a lot of us are actually living into. I mean, everyone's defining success in different ways, right? But like
Mhm.
when it comes at the cost of your happiness and your well-being and, feeling at ease, is it really success if you can't enjoy your life, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing, and I feel like that's really powerful.
Thanks. It's so weird because I'm like, it's okay. I really struggle with the idea of like happiness and contentment because I'm like, if I'm working towards my goals, like I've always been so goal oriented and success driven. That's sort of come at the forefront. And like happiness is just taking a back seat. But like, why can't you have both?
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. I think something that I have been learning lately is that whatever you're choosing to do, whether it's, you know, like in your career, the business you're building, the relationships you're choosing, the food you're eating, like you got to love your reason. You got to love the reason that you're choosing this. Because if you're doing something just out of like for pure performance or to achieve a goal, but you don't actually love that that's the goal you're headed toward, there will be suffering in there. So that for me has given me space to think about I can work really hard as long as I love what I'm doing. And there might be a goal, there might not be, but like if I'm really enjoying, I want to say like what I'm creating, even if sometimes it's not fun,
Mhm.
that feels okay because I'm not doing for some reason that doesn't align with who I am or like what's fulfilling to me. Um, because we have to work hard, right? Like if you want to I mean, this is part of the conditioning, right? Like if you want to be successful, you got to put the work in. Like there's
Sure.
effort and action that's required to create something you're proud of and something that's big. And again, this is my conditioning. Like success is big and it's
Mhm.
bold and it's money and it's accolades or whatever. But like, is it that? Maybe it's just enjoying what you're creating and having some security and financial security along the way. Um, but yeah, we gotta do. There is efforting that's necessary to create what we want to create. But I think if we like what we're doing, that helps with the happiness factor.
Yeah, and I guess one question you could ask yourself, or anyone could ask themselves really, is like, if I like, of course, we have these goals and these things that we want to achieve, but if I never achieve them, would I still be doing it when I'm doing every single day?
Yeah,
That can
totally.
with like that happiness factor and contentment in what you do every day.
Yeah, that's such a good question. What would you say to that?
I'd say I'm still doing what I would do every day. Yeah, I really like my overall work and enjoy it, and even though it can be, like I don't even say it can be monotonous, but even if it is a little bit repetitive and maybe I have, like, versions of the same conversations every day, I still really like those conversations.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't think I would change what my day-to-day looks like.
Yeah,
Or maybe I'm
amazing.
just telling myself that because I'm already
um, no, I think that's a really great question to consider. Can you tell me about, has there been like someone who has influenced you or made an impact on you to, I guess, do this work is what I'm thinking about, but like, has there been a woman or coach or parent or man or anyone who's like really made an impact on you to move in the direction that you're headed, building your own business, sharing your story online, or just generally speaking from your history?
Yeah, I'd say my coach that I had throughout my running career, um, really drove me to do what I'm doing today, but not in like, it's not like he encouraged me to do it, it's he did all the things that I don't think are right, and so I'm trying to not right those wrongs, but change that narrative for any athletes who are going through similar situations or have had a coach who's told them they need to be a certain weight or look a certain way or only have success by doing this one thing. So, more or less, it's not out of encouragement, but it's out of, I think that we can do better. And then my dad actually encouraged me to become a dietitian. So that's a positive side. That's the positive influence. And I think that he like saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself. And so he helped foster that into the career that I'm doing now.
That's amazing. Um, yeah, it does seem, I'm curious if you can speak to your social media because you're very active. You're always sharing information and you're very consistent about your message. Like it
Yeah.
almost seems like you're really on like a crusade and like a mission to like help people change the way they relate to food and body and weight in a positive way and like seeking more balance. But I see it as a crusade that's necessary and I just love all of your posts, but I'm curious like how do you conceptualize your presence on social media? What's your goal?
Yeah, I think my goal is to just like challenge the way people see body image and nutrition. Even if, and I think I try and change that messaging because everyone's going to like take something away from something different. Like no one receives the same message in the same way. Like if something is really emotional, maybe I'll like accept that, but maybe someone needs like a little bit more irony or a little bit more um, sarcasm and
Yeah.
sort of getting through in that messaging. So I try and change how I present that same topic
Mhm.
that like just be fueled, be confident in who you are, not just how you look, and sort of trying to share everything that I've learned up until now because I think that everyone can take something from it, but you need to sort of change that messaging so everyone can take something from it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's brilliant. It's like the same message, but just shared with a different tone or nuance or just sensibility. I
Yeah,
love
or a
that.
different lens. So sometimes, like, I try not to force anything is sort of my biggest thing. Like, I really
Yeah.
don't do well with reels or talking to the camera, so I try more so like focus on carousels. I
Yeah.
try and like don't force funny, but just like be maybe a little bit more. I lean into the irony at times. So try and change it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you got to do what works for you, right? I mean, that's part of the,
Yeah,
the theme of this conversation is make it work for you.
yeah, for sure.
Um, you've also shared with me that you have parents reaching out to you that are following you and saying like, this is such helpful information for my daughter or my kids. What's that been like for you?
It's been really heartwarming. I think that it just like when you get into this role, and I know that for this is like for any leader or entrepreneur, you get to a position where sometimes you don't have that like affirmation that you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I was an athlete for a really long time, and I really got a lot of confidence from external compliments or external belief or what other people were telling me, which I know was not that great. But you get to this point in your life where you don't always have someone telling you that you're doing a good job, or you don't always have someone saying, like, oh, maybe you could be doing this or this. And you sort of have to develop that internal confidence and internal belief, regardless of any sort of external affirmation. And so it's been nice in a way that I have this external affirmation for some people, but at the same time, I don't want to like give my
Mm-hmm.
confidence away to the opinions of others that I don't know. So like it's nice and I appreciate it and it means that my messaging is getting through to people and so that's something that I can take away from it. But still trying to remember like at the end of the day, I don't need other people telling me that this is the
Mhm.
right thing. Know that I am doing the right thing.
Which also feels like something so hard to unlearn as a
Mhm.
professional athlete where like everything was based on your time and like getting the right time or getting a personal best. Like all external measurements of
For
your
sure.
worth, really.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like this isn't just athlete, this could be like type A people as well. Like,
Mhm.
what do
Yeah.
I have to show for all my work? And then you're like, it's just
Right.
what I've been working on internally for a couple of years. I guess that's what I have to show. And that
Yeah.
has to be good enough, even though I can't say like, look at all these things I've made or all these things I've done. And so it's something that I empathize with all the fellow type A'ers out there.
I was just talking about that this morning in a podcast that I recorded of like just being able to look back on your own journey and to really reflect on what that means for you. And it doesn't have to mean that there's a lot showing up on paper. And I think we fall into that trap of, well, there's not a lot on paper. I should have been doing more. I should have been making more money. I should have hit this target. But there's still so much going on internally that it's just sort of a mindset shift around like the external, great, fine, whatever. But internally, we need to be able to recognize how far we've come and what we're creating and what feels good for us.
Yeah.
So I completely identify with what you're saying. And it's nice to have the external validation. It's nice to know you're helping people, but you also have to find your own ways of living and doing the work that you do that you get behind, that you really feel good about and are making an impact that you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Regarding like coaches, parents, adults, what do you wish would change about how adults in like the young people's lives, or I guess even adult people's lives, what do you wish would change about how adults talk to younger people and or each other?
Yeah. I wish that people stop commenting on each other's bodies,
Mhm.
even if it's meant as a compliment. And that's sometimes the worst part of it. Like, I
Mhm.
remember like yearning for people telling me that I looked fit because that aided in my confidence and my belief in myself. And it just festered
Mhm.
to this like confidence that was given to the opinions of other people and not
Mhm.
internally rooted. And so from like a nutrition perspective and in my profession now, I wish that like whether it is meant as a compliment or if it's like from a coach saying like, oh, you need to lose weight to be successful, anything that has to do with like body image or weight, I know sometimes are meant to be something to lift someone else up, but it can have some negative consequences.
Mhm. Yeah, can have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think that's such a hard thing to change. I'm curious your thoughts on like especially being socialized as a woman and probably man too.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of teaching us to comment on how beautiful someone looks or maybe not necessarily their fitness unless you're in the fitness world or a professional
Mhm.
athlete.
Yeah.
But offering compliments as, based on your beauty or what you're just how you look
Yeah.
is so common.
Yeah, it is really common. And I think that if you're like to make a comment about how someone looks, like whether they got work done, whether they changed their hair, whatever it is, if you make that comment in a way, are you saying that like beforehand they didn't look good?
Mhm, mhm,
And then at the end of the day, like can be for anybody. How are we like being perceived by other people? Is it just in how we look, or is it like in our
mhm,
how we talk to people, how we treat people, the work that we're doing, like the encouragement that we give others? Like at the end of the day, we don't want our appearance to be the only thing that
mhm.
is given to
Yeah,
others, and so that changes with how you talk to others, how you think about yourself. And
mhm,
whenever people make comments about each other's bodies, whether it's positive or negative, it's almost always a reflection of your own personal relationship with body image and food and nutrition and weight and things like that. And so at the end of the day, even if people make those compliments, they're more so like reflecting of how they think about those types of
mhm,
things based off of you. But
mhm,
anything like, how do I want to be perceived? Do I want people to only think about my looks, or do I want people to think about like my compassion or my drive or
mhm.
um, things like that? So knowing that the comments that you make to others is a reflection of what you're looking for in your day to day as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great reframe because like 99% of the time how people interact with us is really based on their own experience and their own projections of how they see the world.
Mhm.
So not internalizing that is a good reminder.
Yeah.
And I will remember you not only for your kindness and compassion, but your crusade to shift the conversation around how we take care of our bodies. Um,
Oh, thank you.
and so I'm grateful that I found you again, since you've retired from being a professional athlete and like your message resonates with me and what I need to be hearing and seeing and learning on a daily basis too. So you've got the moms, you've got the 40 plus crew. I'm sure like what you're talking about really, I think applies to so many different people and ages and types of industry. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And like,
For sure.
we've all got to figure out how to take care of ourselves and be kind to ourselves. And I really feel like that's part of what your messaging is.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm getting from it. That's my projection.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I appreciate that. And it's really like, it can be taken in a few different ways. Like, for example, for some people, it's purely on the nutrition side because, like, think about how many times you eat every single day, every single week, every month. Like I said beforehand, I eat like 7 or 8 times a day. How much mental energy am I going to give every single time that I eat? But that, how you think about food and nutrition can also resonate in how you think about body image, and how you think about body image can resonate in how you carry yourself and your confidence. And so it's all intertwined, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, but just knowing that, like, for some people, when it really takes up a lot of mental space, it doesn't always have to. So to convey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you're also highlighting that the way that we interpret information that we're learning from anyone, or the way that we experience another person we're having a conversation with, is going to be individualized to that person. The next person who talks to you or reads your posts or interacts with you is going to have a different takeaway. And that is all so individualized to who we are as people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for the compliment.
What are you still figuring out?
A work-life balance, which I feel like everyone I also work from home, so it makes it hard. And to come back to our earlier conversation, that like rest and productivity and always needing to be doing something, can be difficult to navigate. And like I said, there's always things to be done. Always the to-do list, but no, rest is, I don't even want to say rest is productive, because that still falls into that productivity category, but rest is going to help you too.
Yeah. Final thoughts on being a female in your industry and building a business as a woman and with another woman. Just in general, curious.
Yeah. I think in general, like the dietitian field is pretty female dominated. But there's a lot of different avenues that females can, or dietitians can work in. Like, for example, the main one is like clinical dietitians working in hospitals. That's pretty male dominated, versus maybe like sports nutrition. I mean, sports in general are sort of dominated by males, right? And so I think like being a female in this and trying to get through to like male athletes versus female athletes, it might be a little bit of a different approach, but you can definitely take it, you can learn from it all as well. And it's just me a better like dietitian at the end of the day when I'm working with females and males. And I think that can be resonated for anybody, like even if they are working in a male dominated space. It can be difficult at times, but you can still learn from it, hopefully, and that can make you a stronger leader also.
I love that. Okay, last question. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to know about you, or your approach, or just leadership in general?
You know, the irony in all of this is, before we had this conversation today, I really didn't see myself as a leader at all. And so I think that like maybe for some people who are still like finding their way, they like, you don't have to wait to be confident to be confident. You don't have to like wait for something to show that you need to believe in yourself. And so you don't have to wait for the perfect circumstances to really make an impact. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are just trying to do that, is to make an impact. And so things don't have to be perfect to be able to do that.
Right. I think that really speaks to like, we're never really ready. We just have to do, and to believe that we can do. And part of that belief comes through doing. So I would absolutely consider you as a leader in your space, and just in general, the way that you're working with your clients and women and the message that you're putting out there. But that's what I think. You know, it's up to you what you think, right?
Yeah.
And now you're on this podcast called Conversations with Women Who Lead. So I guess you're a leader.
I guess so.
All right. And where can people find you? How can they contact you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Alexa G. Efraimson, or Alexa Gusman, my other
Mhm.
one. You can find me at www.feelingforward.com. That's a private practice that I work for. And you can apply there to work with me or just have a conversation like we are today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
I am just learning so much from you. So thank you for spending the time to talk with me.
Thank you.
And it was just lovely connecting as always. Just
Of
super
course.
fun conversation. Thank you, Alexa.
Yeah, thanks, Anne Marie.